This is the entire Maestro storyline from start to finish in less than 13 minutes. A story where the Hulk finds out that he's been living in a simulation during the apocalypse. Hulk was convinced that he had finally obtained his dream life. He had gained full control over himself after merging all of his Hulk personalities together. He was married to Betty Ross, and he even had 2 kids with her named Thaddeus and Rick. But one day, while at the dinner table, something weird happened that didn't sit right with him. For some reason, when Betty told their sons to stop playing around because their food was getting cold, Thaddeus said that they didn't have to listen to her because she was dead. And when he said that, Betty didn't really care. She just kept repeating herself and saying the same phrases over and over again. But Bruce was like, "Betty, what's going on? Why did Thaddeus just say that? Why did Thaddeus just say that you're dead?" And for some reason, Betty wouldn't answer him, and then she started repeating an error code. Bruce thought she was like losing her mind or something, so he walked over to her and tried grabbing her, but immediately upon doing so, things went black, and then all of a sudden Captain America showed up, stating that Mysterio was playing a trick on them. But Bruce was confused because he was like, "Mysterio? That doesn't make any sense. When has Mysterio ever attacked the Avengers?" Shortly after that, everything went back to normal, but things still weren't adding up to Bruce, so he decided to go outside to catch some fresh air, despite Captain America strongly advising him not to. But upon stepping out of the house, he wound up in some sort of circuitry control room place. And then yet again, everything went back to normal, but somehow Cap and the Avengers were standing right in front of him. So Bruce was like, "Okay, this doesn't make any sense. You were just behind me, Cap. How are you here now?" But Cap denied being behind him and then kind of tried making it seem like Bruce was going crazy, and eventually he got fed up with it, so he tried leaving again, but then Thor grabbed him by the wrist, demanding him to stay put. So Banner was forced to knock him back so that he would let go of him, but upon doing so, another weird thing happened. There wasn't any sound when he hit Thor, and usually there'd be some sort of thud or crunch. Unfortunately, he didn't have much time to think about it though, because the other Avengers started marching his way in order to restrain him. So he knocked all of them back with a massive thunderclap, but Vision was completely unaffected because he went intangible. So Vision walked all the way up to him until reaching straight into his mind and expressing that this was going to hurt. And Bruce tried resisting whatever he was trying to do, but Vision's power was just too much, and eventually it caused him to wake up, and that's when we realized that Hulk was actually a lot older and he had been strapped to a simulation for a very long time. After Hulk realized that he had been living in a simulation, he broke out of the machine that put him there, wondering how long he had been living like that. Immediately after, he was approached by a lady with a little boy, telling Bruce to calm down because she knew he had a lot of questions. But Bruce completely ignored her and then tried taking her son because he thought it was his son Rick, the son that he somehow had with Betty Ross. Anyways, after that, he was approached by a bunch of AIM soldiers, demanding him to freeze unless he wanted them to open fire. And Bruce didn't think their weapons were strong enough to hurt him, so he didn't take their orders seriously. But that was obviously a huge mistake because their weapons actually packed a massive punch and were strong enough to send him crashing into a door. Bruce then slammed the ground beneath him as hard as he could, only to end up even deeper in the facility, where he discovered that he wasn't the only one living in a simulation because Vapor and Abomination were there, hooked up to the same machines that he was hooked up to. Moments later, the AIM soldiers tracked him down, so he tried blitzing them, but it was completely useless because they had some sort of force field that was protecting them. He was then blasted by yet another huge beam of energy, but it didn't come from the soldiers. It actually came from none other than MODOK. Hulk's immediate reaction was to ask him what happened to everyone. Where was Betty and his friend Rick? And according to MODOK, they were long dead. Bruce then attacked him because he assumed that he was the one responsible for killing them, but what was weird was that MODOK didn't try fighting him back, and he even welcomed Bruce to kill him, expressing that he would be doing him a favor. And if life was so bad that the villains didn't even care whether they lived or not, then something was up, and Bruce had to figure it out, so he took a step back and asked how they died. MODOK then revealed that World War III was the cause of their death, them and everyone else. A terrorist group set off nuclear weapons in both the United United States and Russia, and convinced both countries that the other country was responsible. After everything was all said and done, 60% of humanity was completely wiped out, and then years later, another terrorist group calling themselves the Black Scythe unleashed poisonous gas all throughout the world, which lowered its population even more. So MODOK and AIM took Bruce and the others underground to preserve them in simulations because their bodies benefited from radiation, which could possibly help aid their survival. But honestly, at first, Bruce didn't believe that what MODOK was telling him was true. So he went to go check it out for himself, only to discover that MODOK wasn't lying at all. The world was a complete wasteland and there wasn't any humans around. But he wanted to see how bad it truly was, so he journeyed all across the earth. There wasn't really anything in the cities except destroyed buildings, and there wasn't really anything in the forests except dead animals. But during his travels, he discovered that some people were actually still alive. And in this underground facility, he was told by Machine Man that New York was actually a fully functioning city called Dystopia now. And it even had a ruler who went by Maestro that everyone described as a god. And Hulk was like, you know what, I gotta go there and I gotta meet this Maestro dude. So he went there, and upon his arrival, this minister dude escorted him directly to the throne room because apparently Maestro wanted to see him. And that's when Bruce discovered that the Maestro was actually freaking Hercules. After Hulk discovered that Hercules was the Maestro, Hercules kinda greeted him with hospitality, expressing how glad he was to see him and then stating that he was always his favorite. And Hulk was kinda confused because what did he mean he was his favorite? His favorite what? And Hercules was like my favorite sparring partner, then hitting him with an absolute bomb of a punch that had so much force behind it that it sent him all the way from the throne room to the middle of the city. Hulk was outraged after that, so when Hercules came flying at him for more, he stopped him in midair by grabbing his fist and then battered him with a monster right hook. But Hercules was barely affected at all by it and quickly responded by smashing the ground with both of his fists, causing Hulk to fall down into the subway where someone told him some pretty shocking news. His old friend Rick Jones wanted to see him, and he thought Rick was dead, so of course he followed them, and it turned out that they weren't lying. Rick was alive and well, just a lot older and disabled. They immediately began talking about Hercules over a few drinks, with Rick expressing how much he didn't like him, stating that all he cared about was women and partying, and that he didn't care about the ordinary people just trying to survive. But Hulk wasn't on the same page as him and quickly became frustrated because he didn't think that ordinary people mattered either, because ordinary people were the ones who destroyed the world. So why should he care whether Hercules treated them right or not? He then took things a step further, saying that if Hercules had a brain, he would lay waste to all the ordinary people. But Rick was like, what about Betty? Betty was a normal person, I'm a normal person, even you were a normal person at one point, Bruce. What happened? Bruce just didn't care though. He was past the point of return and expressed that humans were sheep who should be ruled by a person like him. After that, he stated that he needed a lab because he had plans to build something great, so one of Rick's acquaintances took him to what was left of Alchemax. Later on, while Hercules was trying to do some stuff with a shoddy, his minister walked over to him saying that he had some important information that he needed to tell him. And at first, Hercules was angry because it was quite apparent that he was busy, but then the minister said that the information was about the Hulk. So Hercules dropped his little shoddy and was like, tell me immediately. So the minister told him that Hulk was giving a speech to his people downtown, and apparently Hulk wanted to take over, to build the country up and make it even greater than it was before, and to form an alliance that ruled over the world. But upon asking who wanted to join him, the people stayed silent in fear. Nobody was on the same page, and unfortunately for them, that was bad news, because Hulk would then reveal his newly created army of cybernetic war dogs and immediately command them to start attacking everyone. Hulk built an army of cybernetic war dogs to take over the world, but he was put to a stop when Hercules destroyed his entire army and then bested him once again. At one point, Hercules literally threw him up into the air, grabbed him by his green fungus foot, and then started slamming him onto the ground back and forth, the same way that he slammed Loki into the ground in the first Avengers movie. Bruce then tried responding by tackling Herc onto the ground, but Hercules was like, nah, I'm Big Herc, boy. So he picked Bruce up into the air, smashed punched him into the concrete face first, sweet chin musicked him across the entire city, and then relentlessly mollywopped him over and over again until Hulk tapped out. Like Hulk literally just gave up, and Hercules thought they were cool after that, so he invited Hulk over to the palace for some drinks and women. But Hulk was like, nah man, I don't deserve it because I insulted and attacked you, but I'll return at some point in the future and make amends with you. And Hercules was glad because he genuinely liked Hulk's company, but Hulk's old best friend Rick Jones knew that this wasn't going to end well and expressed that Hercules was definitely gonna die soon because Banner wasn't the type to give up. He was the type to come back with a plan and find a way to win. And that's exactly what he did, and his plan was actually pretty smart. So he comes back years later with this girl requesting to see Maestro. And when Hercules comes out, he's delighted because like I said earlier, he likes the Hulk, and Hulk offers him this girl as a way to make amends for attacking him. But when Hercules and this girl go behind closed doors to have some fun, the girl reveals that she's actually Vapor, one of the people that was in a simulation back at the AIM facility, and she literally turns into some sort of poisonous gas, enters Hercules' body, and kills him. Immediately after that, Hulk steps in, and it's clear that he's tricked her as well because he uses some sort of freeze ray to freeze her and then orders his men to bury her shattered fragments all around the kingdom so they could never reintegrate. And at that point, Hulk's like, okay, cool, my plan's working. I killed Hercules, I'll lie to all of his people about the cause of his death, and then we'll have a ceremony for him, and during that ceremony, I'll announce myself as the new leader. But during this ceremony, things didn't go the way he expected because he was forced to bring out his war dogs when the people objected to his leadership, and then Hades allowed Hercules to come back from the freaking dead to get his revenge. So yet again, him and Hulk got into another massive brawl, and yet again, Hercules had the upper hand for most of the fight. But then, while lifting Hulk above his head, Hercules' minister blasted him with a giant cannon to end him once and for all because he never really liked him in the first place. Then Hulk tries going after his old friend Rick because during his fight with Hercules, one of Rick's acquaintances attacked him. But when he got to Rick's underground facility, it was booby-trapped with explosives and Rick was gone. So long story short, he got blown up, but he was strong enough to withstand the impact, and then after that, he finally officially announced himself as the new Maestro while sitting on Hercules' old throne. And sadly, that's where Maestro's origin story comes to an end, but if you want more stories like this in the future, let me know in the comments down below.